Hey, Madeline.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. So another episode of EHANCE podcast, and this one is with Chris Epps.
Yeah.
He's an architect in the area. So I guess you had a chance to go back and listen to it.
I listened to about 3/4 of it, so it got pretty interesting there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, you weren't in studio for that one. And we're actually not in studio right now. We're off in a remote location. We're in the upstate of South Carolina. So seeing some friends, and we wanted to go ahead and get the preview show done so we could get the editing done.
Right.
But what were some things about this episode that you found interesting?
At the beginning, I think it was part of the curveball you threw him where he said something like, just don't stress about it, it's not worth it. Like, he talked about a teacher he had where apparently that teacher said, if my students are getting a full night's sleep, I'm not doing my job right. And I thought, that is wild. I mean, to think about that. So I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that's architecture school. I know like engineering school was very much like that as well. But that attitude probably wasn't the best, in my opinion, as far as the architecture teacher that he had. There was a few things that I enjoyed about the show and just discussing with Chris. Obviously, he brought the Meta AI glasses, so we got to get into that, but that was fun. So you can check that out toward the end. But he also had a really good why, just buildings and people and bringing them together through architecture. That was a big theme of his why and what we talk about. And then also just like the nonprofit work that he does and the meaningful aspect of that, I felt was inspiring, which is one of the goals of the show, is to inspire, educate, and entertain. So I think we hit a little bit of all of those today.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, well, let's go ahead and let them get to the episode then. Hey everybody, my name is Andy Richardson, and this is my producer Madeline. I've been in this industry for 26 years, and I'm still learning more. Come along with me on our journey. All right, let's jump to the intro.
Welcome to EHANCE, an AEC podcast, where we learn the why behind AEC professionals so that you can learn your why.
All right, hey Chris, thanks for coming in today. So, hey, I just want to go ahead and start off with just a quick question, and then we'll get into some of your background.
Okay.
But you've had a quite an interesting journey in your life, from going in from construction and architecture. But I wanted you to take a time machine of sorts back, say, to when you were 15 or 16 years old, to your younger self. And what's a piece of advice you would give to yourself as a 15-year-old as it relates to life, design, architecture, career? So some of those aspects.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Probably not to take things so seriously.
Okay.
That's it. Or make sure you get sleep.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe you had a good lesson on both of those. Like, anything come to mind as it relates to
well, in school, when school-wise came, I always had a difficulty because I always became too detailed.
Yeah.
Even in things that wasn't, you had school projects. Revit would be a good question. I always had a Revit model that was really detailed, but no one would ever see those details.
Right.
So time management, work smart, not harder. That's basically, and really, personally, I would say, forgive yourself for the mistakes that you make. Just forgive yourself. Like, I should have called that person, or anything like that, or that didn't work out right. I screwed up. You're only human.
Right.
Forgive yourself for it.
Yeah, that's
great. So holding on to that baggage, and when you're that age, you have a lot of baggage you don't know.
And it's interesting because those tips all sort of roll together, because if you're able to forgive yourself, if you're able to say, you know what, it's not that big a deal, then you can go home earlier or go to bed. Like a lot of us, we work late at night as in the architects, engineers. So you can go to bed and say, you know what, it'll be okay tomorrow, and you can then have fun and enjoy yourself a little bit more. Right?
I mean, we do live in a life or death industry, but it's not a time frame life and death industry.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, we have life safety we have to deal with, but that's not. I mean, in school, remember how much it was. I had a teacher once say, if my students look like they're getting sleep, then I'm not doing my job.
Oh.
It's just like, what industry are we working at? We have to work all night and work with no sleep.
Right. Yeah,
And
that should have
so-
been a clue, right? When they told you that.
But then again, you know, your body has a rhythm. So I oftentimes work in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I mean,
No one's calling.
there are times when, yeah, that's what it takes, right?
And it's quiet. No one's up. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, we are dealing, like you mentioned, we're dealing with life safety things.
Yeah.
Structural engineers, that's what we do. We protect the public through ensuring safety with our designs.
Yeah.
You're protecting the public as well with your designs.
Life safety,
Fire, egress.
and all those things, water damage. It's very much, if you get in medical, how
Yeah.
fast that doctor can get to point A to point B. But yeah, we have deadlines, but something other than like governmental deadlines,
Yeah.
you can miss it.
Yeah.
You can't miss it. You should never miss it, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's the reason they call them deadlines, right?
Yeah.
They kill you.
But luckily, we're kind of in the South, and things are in this area.
Yeah.
If you miss a deadline, if it's just one of those things, most people understand. It's like, hey, my kid needed picked up or something. Sorry.
Yeah.
Most part, people are kind of cool with it.
Yeah, as long as you communicate, right?
Mhm.
That's the key.
You're humble about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that. It's just starter question.
That
I like
random
to,
answer.
Yeah, we have kind of a question. So thanks for taking us through that time machine.
Yeah.
I guess you're probably like an '80s kid or a '90s kid. So
I don't
grew
even
up in
know
the
how old
80s.
I think I'm 42 soon.
Okay.
So 90s.
Back
maybe?
to the Future. You know, that was like something that we grew up on. It sounds like you were in the same era that I was. But anyway, so let me give you a background of Christopher Epps. So he's a founder and principal at InCircle Architecture. We're both here in the Lowcountry of South Carolina. Bluffton is where you are. So Chris is renowned as a fixer in the AEC industry, adept at solving complex design and construction challenges, focuses on sustainability, community-driven design solutions, deep ties to the Lowcountry with the legacy spanning 5 generations, active educator and mentor, shaping future architects, advocates for historic preservation while meeting modern demands. So I want to get into a little bit of the background of you and personally, and specifically with your family.
Mhm.
So it's stated there, you have some deep roots in the Lowcountry. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, technically, I was born in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Lived there until I was 6. But my mom and her side of the family are from Bluffton.
Okay.
So my dad met my mom when he was stationed at the Naval Hospital. He was a flight surgeon.
Okay.
And my grandmother was his patient, classic, you need to meet my daughter type, that type of situation. So my grandfather, my mom's dad was a was in the Marine Corps, and my dad was a naval officer. So they met, and they were in Ohio and said, we can't take this winters anymore, so we're going to move out. Bluffton, where my mom's from.
Yeah.
And so my mom actually went to high school here in Beaufort. So that's why I know some people over here in Beaufort and can break in. But in Bluffton, we about 5 generations. Savannah too, in Georgia, but mainly in Bluffton. We've been there. My son would be 5 generations.
Okay, so your dad was a naval officer?
Yeah, he was a flight surgeon.
A flight surgeon.
So what he did was he moved to Hilton Head to start the cardiac program.
Okay.
In the area there. And that was 89, a week before Hugo.
Oh, yeah.
And so we moved, and it's funny, my daughter always gives me, I said, I'm from Bluffton. And they're like, no, you're from Ohio. I was like, that was 34 years ago. I don't remember Ohio.
You were 6.
Yeah. I was 6.
Well, yeah, a lot of people don't even know what Hugo means. I know what that means, but what is Hugo?
Hugo was a hurricane that basically was heading straight to Beaufort, but thankfully continental shelf, and the Gulf Stream moved north to Charleston, just absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
That's before we had our current Miami-Dade structural wind load, all that stuff. You know more than I do.
Right.
It was just a pretty devastating hurricane. But it was supposed to hit Hilton Head.
Right, it was coming straight for us. I lived in Columbia, South Carolina at the
It hit
time.
you worse probably than us.
It did. We saw some sign damage and building damage, a little
Yeah.
bit of building damage too, but yeah, it definitely destroyed that northern Charleston area. Anything north of Charleston,
Yeah, and
Myrtle
Charleston.
Beach.
I remember driving to Charleston and seeing all the trees cut off at
Yeah,
a certain height because of the wind. It was a pretty devastating thing. I just remember it briefly.
yeah. I mean, it was a Cat 4 or Cat 5, I believe. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
We stayed because my dad had to.
Yeah.
To the hospital. So if we had to, we would just go to the hospital. And every major hurricane, we always just went to the hospital if we needed to.
Yeah.
Because those are built for, what, 4s?
Yeah, Category 4. Yeah,
Yeah.
100 and I think 54 miles an hour around here, roughly.
Yeah.
V ultimate is what they call it. We went into that in a technical bonus episode with.
The ultimate wind load?
Yeah, well, we went over some of the loadings and things in the last episode.
Oh.
So yeah, that tells us a little bit about how you came to what we call the Lowcountry here, which is the Beaufort, Bluffton, Charleston, anything low on the coast.
Anything
of
below
South
15
Carolina.
feet in sea level.
Yeah. Well, that name goes all the way back. A lot of people don't realize this, so there's a little history. But that name goes all the way back to the I don't know 1700s. They called anything coastal was called the Low Country, and anything inland
High country.
was called back country.
Yeah.
So that's all where all the hillbillies lived. You know, like Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox, and so forth.
I
But
don't say
anyway,
anything that's still with some of the.
huh?
Not as bad as Georgia, anyway. I'm sorry for anybody from Georgia.
Yeah.
'Cause Georgia boys, I'm in the Shrine with a bunch of Georgia guys,
Okay.
and they're different. They'll tell you they're different.
Yeah.
And they're different than South Carolina.
Well, we're an international show. We don't hold too much grudges, but we're.
It's kind of like how Germany has the low country, too.
Yeah.
So low country of Germany is the northern. Then you have the high. It's like almost two. I understand it's like two different languages.
Yeah. So does that, being in the Low Country, does that influence your architecture at all? Or is that having the roots and living here, does that impact your design approach?
Yes, in a very weird way. Not the style so much, other than being near Hilton Head.
Yeah.
And being near Savannah. Savannah is landscape architect's dream and how they built that. So in Hilton Head with Charles Fraser and how you originally did with the almost an organic architecture.
Mm-hmm.
So it has influenced those areas in trying to protect the land and the building being secondary to the land. Being in a transitional area with a lot of people coming and going has taught me how to talk to everybody, being able to communicate from anywhere in the world. That has affected me. Being low, just being a little bit more laid back.
Right.
And being open to people.
Yeah.
It just comes with it.
Okay.
Being a little bit easier going.
So that you're talking a little bit more about like the design process, like how you connect.
How I interact with the client.
Right.
And interact with people. Because a lot of my job, you mentioned a fixer.
Yeah.
So a lot of my job is I get called in for stalled or troublesome projects.
Okay.
They're having problems with permitting. They're having problems. Like today, I went to see somebody who the contractor said, "Oh, you're doing an outside porch screening." Told them they didn't need HOA. Hilton had invented HOAs and didn't need to have plans. Didn't need a permit. So I got called in because I'm the guy that comes in afterwards. And so being from the Low Country and being from the area, I know how to go in and talk to people and be relative. And they know who I am. And being from here is very much your reputation precedes you a lot of times. So they know that you're so design-wise, just being in nature, I guess that's the only thing. But my school in particular didn't teach design a certain style.
Okay. They did not?
No.
Okay. And what
We were
school was
taught Savannah College of Art and Design.
that? Okay. SCAD.
Yeah, SCAD.
Right.
In Savannah. We were taught to take whatever style that the client wants, research that style, and do the style they want. So we don't have a style.
Okay.
We have the style of the client.
Interesting. Okay.
So we weren't taught a particular. At the time, our projects were all over the country, example projects. So we were taught how to look at everything, and mainly we were talked about how to look at the site first and the architecture second.
Yeah. Now, how does that play out in the real world, if you will? Because, and the thing that I'm getting to is, obviously, you have these HOAs, as you called it, which is what the acronym,
Homeowners Association, Architectural Review Boards.
There's all these acronyms, but you have to get through these acronyms. Yeah. Right? DRB.
HPC, Historic Preservation, DRB, Development Review Board. Yeah.
So does that impact your design at all, especially with regard to what you were saying earlier about, you don't have a style, but really these HOAs,
they have a style.
They have a style in mind, right?
They have bylaws and architectural reviews that really drive this Southern style in this area. Ironically, Charles Fraser hated the Southern style.
Right.
And so Hilton Head's trying to make a Southern style in a place that wasn't built for Southern style.
Right.
That's my little tidbit of ironic.
Well, and actually, so Jay Fraser was on here a few episodes ago, and we talked a lot about sea pines.
Yeah. It's a great book, Profits and Politics in Paradise.
Okay.
I think it's something like that.
Yeah.
Great. It breaks down all that. Fred Hacks, Charles Fraser, and how all of Hilton. It's an incredible book if you ever want to know about it. But yeah, it's interesting. You have professional committees versus non-volunteer committees.
Yeah.
And particularly you have volunteer just homeowners. And usually you get one or two on there that took one class of architecture. And so they think they know everything, and God bless them. They know enough to be dangerous. That's a little difficult.
Yeah,
because it's designed by committee.
They might be listening, but no, I'm kidding.
And I've been on HPC, and so I'm sure people have said the same thing about me.
Sure.
Historic Preservation Commission. So you go with their design, and but the thing is that people don't realize if it's not in your bylaws, it's not in the architectural review, the guidelines, they can't enforce it.
Yeah.
And that's why I come in, is because all that pent up anger you get for driving around or anything like that, I hold it together.
Right.
And when my client allows me to go after it, that's when I go after them.
Okay.
But the thing is when you get a professional, something like that, everybody has a job in the process of making that building. Mm-hmm. So every individual, you have to respect everybody. And
yeah, of course, yeah.
Architects are sometimes, they have the bad reputation of really pushing around the ego. Like the joke I like to say is you never see two of us in the same building because our egos won't fit. And so, and that's where I try to differ from everybody else. Mm-hmm. And you kind of pinpointing something that's kind of cool is how we look at the site versus in the building. I usually work with a landscape architect. And I tell, which is a weird relationship between architect and landscape architect. I use them to tell me what to do and where to put the building. I work with them in how to adjust the building when my views are. And then on the backside, I tell them kind of landscaping stuff.
Okay.
I don't know about landscaping. I'm an architect now. I know how to cut stuff, and then they work under us for that. So I work under them and they work under us.
Yeah.
It's just really, but
synergy almost.
Yeah. And as an architect, my job is to communicate with everybody.
Yeah.
It's like when we work together.
Sure.
I have always told you, hey, if I need to move a wall or something to make this work better, tell me.
Yeah, I mean, that's really helpful for us. Normally, we don't do that. I mean, normally we just say, look, you develop what I call the envelope of the building, the design of the building, and then we like to say we enhance it, right? So that's part of the name of the building.
Oh, no.
Thing.
You got to say what you put on your website, the reason why I went with you in the first place.
Okay, yeah, we help architects look good with streamlined structural engineering. So
I remember when I was looking for a new engineer, and I saw that, and I wanted to call you up.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I guess it's working, but
yeah,
I was glad that
well, I thought that was an inside joke. It was a good little inside joke about architects.
I mean, if you don't stand out, then, well, you're not going to stand out.
It's been really nice.
So yeah, you got to try to, when you're talking about marketing and things, you got to want to stand yourself out.
Yeah, you do, and you got to find the people who think differently.
Yeah.
Than everybody else, and when you find those people, things tend to go very well.
Yeah. And I mean, I can definitely relate to the fixer mentality. I mean, a lot of times when it comes to just the standard, like we need a design, a lot of times those aren't good jobs for us. I mean, we'll do those, and we want all the jobs, is what I say. But usually, our one of our things that we tend to work better at, or people like us for, is when we're solving a problem.
It's so much funner.
Yeah.
It's when we actually start thinking. There's
Yeah.
only so many times you can make like a Lowcountry house.
Yeah.
But when I get called up, hey, we were already on construction, can you figure this out? I'm actually it's a problem solving.
Yeah.
It makes you think.
It's fun. I mean, if it's, I like what one of my mentors, he calls it a money job. I like money jobs too, don't get me wrong.
Bread and butter. I call it bread and butter.
Yeah, bread and butter. And those are helpful, and you got to have those to run a business. But it's nice to have those problem solvers too.
Like the gas station.
Yeah, the gas station job. That's more of a problem solver.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gas station job. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I think you got a question on there about the gas station job.
Yeah, we can jump into that. I mean,
if you want.
So that's in Bluffton. I mean, I don't know how specific you want to get, but
I can finally talk about it because it's public. We're starting to go through it public. So
yeah,
I typically don't talk about my commercial clients.
Sure. Well, we can talk generically, but I mean, basically, this is a project we're working on, and it's an existing gas station.
Yeah.
Right.
It's in the heart of a historic district. It's an existing gas station. It's not conforming site. Building's a CMU block, plain old CMU block building. And there's a site next to it. So they want to add a second floor. And by doing so, we have to make the building look historic.
Yeah.
And which isn't the first time a cinder block building is made. I have to give it to Court Atkins. They did a really good job over the old Piggly Wiggly with the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. Give them credit. I know architects don't give other architects credit. So we're having to figure out, and because the gas station can't close for 1 minute because they lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about a big corporate gas station that can close down one shop and
still have 20 left, or
20 million left. And so what we're trying to figure out to do is put a second floor in addition while it's still open, and coordinate. Well, one, we got to coordinate crews to go in and work around schedules. We have two businesses. One needs to move to somewhere else. So we need to do something and put a second floor on a building that we can't guarantee the structural stability. Mm-hmm. And so that's where you came in and, asking you, hey, let's build I don't know the easy way to describe
I mean, really, we call it an exoskeleton.
Yeah, we're building an exoskeleton around it. I used to do it a lot with people wanting to put a second floor on garages. I'm building a second floor, on stilts around an existing building.
Yeah.
And so with that, there's a lot of cool little code tricks we're using. For example, one of my questions is, since they're separate, consistently we're making two separate buildings, does that mean that if we made living space up there, do we have to put a sprinkler system on there because they're two separate buildings with a 1 hour fire rating in between, which in the code it says you can have a 1 hour, which that takes a huge amount of thought. I think the planning people in Bluffton are like, we don't think you can do it. You need to talk to the head building official. It was like, no, I've already figured out how to do it. Like, we've already figured out how to do it. We don't need to talk to them. I'll bring them in the conversation when I get a little bit further down. Because a lot of times you need people who can think three-dimensionally.
Right.
And think how that works, because that's not a straightforward concept.
Yeah, so that was definitely an interesting job. And then obviously we did the structural, so
we'll be doing, we haven't started yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on it.
We're working on it. And then we did the the one on a private island.
Oh yeah, that was an
Yeah.
interesting project because they didn't want to have concrete.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of things about that project.
Yeah, that was
so we don't
interesting.
wa- But yeah, that was a local island, and there's a number of things about that. One, it was an island that you had to get to by boat. It was a little controversial in this area, so we'll leave it at that. But obviously, one of the things was they wanted modular because
They could ship it over on a boat.
and have most of the construction done.
Yeah.
And then they didn't want concrete trucks, so nothing was going to require concrete or minimal to no concrete.
Yeah.
Which, how do you do that with foundations? Well, we ended up using. Do you want to talk about that at all?
The
or-
helical pilings,
Yeah.
which are incredible. I used those for my master thesis.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I had a similar modular thing for my master. And then
Well, that played out.
that
very
was
well on this.
difficult because we're working with a German-Russian architectural firm in Europe
Yeah.
that like to really over-engineer.
Yeah. So
And the more you engineer on a little island, the more things would go wrong.
that goes back into our problem solving because
Yeah.
there was a lot of problems. We had people problems with dealing with the project management, and then all these different people involved. You had
Yeah.
the modular and the concrete and the design too, because you had to try to figure out the design and take their concept and then be the architect of record.
And not put my design into it
Yeah.
and take myself out of it. But I think what worked is everybody kind of on our side, the AEC team, architectural team, or we trusted each other.
Yeah.
And that I think worked the best
Right.
because we knew each other, would know how to do it, and and it worked the best.
Yeah.
And generally that's what I like to do is when I have consultants is I know how you operate. I can go, hey, take this. I don't want to think about it.
Right.
I don't have time to think about it. I don't have a huge group of people I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And then you come back, here it is.
Well,
And
that
I can
should
trust
be-
you.
Yeah.
Know that you're going to honor it because we worked together so long, and you know what I'm looking at, and I know what you're looking at, so I don't have to worry.
Yeah. Well, that's what it should
And I'll
be.
review it. Yeah.
It
I don't like
should
to
be-
micromanage people.
Yeah.
I don't have time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go another aspect of your career. I want to go kind of in your career a little bit again, because you have an interesting background as far as you didn't go a traditional route straight into
Oh, no.
architecture. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So I started off as SCAD as I was a problem. I was a lost child, I guess. I went to three different high schools.
Okay.
And then I went to SCAD for sculpture and ceramics, which they didn't offer anyhow. I was just taking classes. And I left, went to USCB to take some social psych classes. And then after that, I taught ceramics. And then when I left, I tried to work at a couple different. And my joke with construction on the island, you do construction when you've been fired from everything else.
Okay.
So I got laid off, I like to say, through everything. So I started doing construction. And I went to TCL, Technical College of Lowcountry. It's a 2-year school. And took their construction management courses. And got to a point where I just was like, I've taken all the classes. Because I've taken microcomputers, microelectronics, electrical, plumbing, CAD, all those things. And I said, okay, I want to go back. And I was looking at doing architectural engineering, which I never figured out what that was, but
Yeah.
this is not regular, it's just architectural engineering. What do you
Yeah.
do with that? So I went back, snuck into the architecture department, found a teacher and asked him what I should, and Dr. Payne was his name. He's a great teacher. I had him actually for a professor. And he said, would you rather be doing secondary or being the chief on the job? And I said, well, the chief doesn't sound so bad. And so I went back for architecture. It was 2 weeks before school started. Went back, said, hey, what do I need to do? Went back and started, pulled a GPA from like 1.4 to a 3.49 within a
Okay.
year. And while doing that, I was also a boat captain.
Okay.
And so, dolphin nature guide.
Yeah.
So I learned how to speak to people and not get client relationships that through that. And that's just how I did it. But I started doing construction. I was a punch finish carpenter for a couple old union guys that came from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And they were great. They taught me everything. And as a trim carpenter and a finish carpenter, you have a different outlook on the building. It's more like detailed oriented.
Sure.
And so I got enough exposure that a lot of architects don't get. I learned how to build a building.
Yeah.
And then that way, when I come back, oftentimes I use what I'm learning from that in my architecture. You know, always be like, if you're doing wood frame, build it a 16th inch. You know, because all the 4x8 foot board gets divided equally in 16 inch. All these things, building materials, if you do, say, you got 12 feet but doesn't work, go to 13.4 or 11.4.
Yeah.
Because it'll fall within the stud. And then you cut down, God, about 10 to 15% waste.
Okay.
Just by following a simple rule. Don't go like 11 2 inches. Because that scrap won't work.
Right, right. But if you just did 11.4.
Yeah, you just work within that 16.
Yeah.
You keep to the modular systems, which I've learned that through construction, or my details when I'm learning how to, you know, do trim details. How does that work? And so I don't have a magic hook that holds everything up, and I actually kind of can dive in and figure out how to do all these things.
Yeah, you think about it as if you were in the field.
Yeah.
So.
And since we're doing a lot of remodels or a lot of coming back, you know how. So you see some things like in 2008, so in 2007, you know, everybody was running real fast, so you know how they were building things. Mm-hmm. And how a carpenter would do something different that's outside the plans, but you know how they operate. Or they would have done this because it's easier. Like sometimes now you're noticing, you know, instead of a header right above a window, like this window, it's right up below the top plate.
Right.
So you would only know that if you were following that kind of stuff, and the reasons why they're doing that. Or my hold downs.
Right.
I go after the fact and drill.
Okay.
Instead of putting hooks during construction. Because
Yeah.
you know.
Wet set.
Yeah, you know somebody's going to knock one out of the place.
Right.
And then when they come down, they have to mark it and put down the bottom plate, mark it, drill holes. Why not just put the bottom plate down and then you come back afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Right, but I guess it depends.
Because you know, because I was the bottom guy tripping over the J-hooks.
Yeah, and then the finisher, he doesn't have to go around those bolts every time.
And you would only know that if you were the bottom person on the pole, like on the job, like I was.
Or if you're out, if you're out there seeing it, you're like, wait a minute, okay, the finisher has to go around these bolts, and you really can't finish that concrete slab very good. And then you put the 2x4 on top of that, or the 2x6 on top of that, and it's like it's not real flat because of the way they had
the finisher couldn't get in there.
Yeah, there's no way to do it.
Or you have sympathy for the guy that has the hand nailer versus the precision nailing the, you know, all the Simpson ties.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know how it's being done or how long it takes. Or.
So, if with regard to your education and the real world,
mm-hmm.
I mean, especially with your construction knowledge, and do you see any gaps there in terms of education and construction?
Well, typical education, I can only talk about. I went to a design school.
Yeah.
And I could only talk about. Design school doesn't teach you practical how things are built. We teach you design.
Yeah.
Granted, I had an incredibly excellent structural engineer teacher.
Okay.
Her name was Melanie Parker, and she taught us a lot of things that most in those classes won't teach you. She actually taught us practical. But the construction classes, some of them, I had one, the teacher. I remember working in the field because working as a carpenter, he came out and he didn't know the difference between a 4-inch can and a 6-inch can, and he was teaching the class.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so you have a separate of practical and all those things. So that's why I went to a design school, because I knew the practical side. Okay. I needed to push myself for design.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
And my education was pretty complete when it comes to design.
Okay.
and comes into just how to work a business, how to, all those things. A SCAD student, a true SCAD student knows how to do everything.
Okay.
Because we're taught how to, it's what's called a Beaux-Arts type of school, or a Bajas. Not really, Bajas is a bad term. So your first and second year, you're teaching how to draw, how to do 2D, how to do websites, how to do all those things. And then you go into your major.
Okay.
Just like a regular liberal arts would teach you the basics before you go. So a SCAD student will be able to, if you hired one, if they came through the whole program, do your websites, do your portfolios, do your, all those things, because we had to teach that.
Interesting. And
push that. And we also know how to make money from because it's a business school for art.
I didn't know that. I mean, I see so much on, I follow a lot on LinkedIn lately. Yeah. And I see a lot of posts. It's almost like we're making an advertisement for SCAD right now. we should tell them.
I was a fellowship in SCAD. Yeah.
They need to like support the show or something.
I have a fellowship from them.
Okay.
And so.
But I guess what I was going to say is there's so much talk on what I'm seeing online about architects that they're not getting the support they need and the education they need for business. But it sounds like you really had a lot.
SCAD has gone that direction.
Yeah.
They actually, my fellowship was, they have a section where they actually will give you $10,000 to start a business.
Okay. Wow.
And teach you that. So yeah, SCAD used to be an art school. Now it's an art business school.
Okay.
They teach you, it's really kind of, but in the same instance, I had I hate to use, we can actually call them junior architects now. We used to not be able to.
Yeah.
From Clemson.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's incredible. She was incredible.
Go Tigers.
Like insanely good. Like better than some of the master's students I've gotten from other classes we were talking about. And she, I mean, the first week I had her talking to a client, like she knew everything. And my landscape architect, he comes from Josh. He comes from Clemson.
Okay.
So Clemson has some, and they have a great program which is the program that I researched for SCAD, of using students to do real work.
Okay.
As part of because we have a new licensing. You can go for your test during school, right, and get hours underneath your licensing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we have intern hours too that we have to do, and they're using students for real world activities in Charleston, which I was impressed.
Well, that sounds really helpful because I mean, hiring right now is very difficult, as you know, or I guess I don't know if do you have anybody on your team?
Not right now.
You're just solo right now.
I'm solo right now. I might in the future, but we're just kind of.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I can tell you, it's hard to hire right now.
Yeah.
I'm engineers, so I imagine it's hard to hire architects. So it sounds like that solution that I guess
I can believe it because I keep getting phone calls from friends. Come work for us, and then I can't work for any. I can work as a partner with, not partner, but as a collaboration with somebody, but I can't work with somebody.
Well, I want to talk about your entrepreneur and just a couple more questions, but want to get into that a bit. And going from employee to entrepreneur, you had some experience from SCAD in terms of doing that, but can you talk about your lessons learned from transitioning from employee to entrepreneur?
Yeah, there's a little step. I owned a toy store.
Okay.
Through that.
Another twist.
Another twist. I worked under a great named Mike Vaccaro, and I really learned a lot from him.
Okay.
You might not realize how much I did learn from him. And then at one point, I got my license. I was 7 exams. So I had one on my belt. And then I just went on my own because it was just more comfortable for me.
Okay.
And there was other reasons why I went on my own. And I took a good 6 of my exams in 7 weeks.
Okay.
This while working on a full-time job as a boat captain.
Okay. So back to the boat captain.
Yeah. I had to go back to boat captain to make ends meet after I left my firm.
Yeah.
And I was just, at the time, I was just running permits. Meaning I was just filling out paperwork for people to go to like HPC and Historic Board and all that stuff. But it's good money being a dolphin guide. So I went back to being a dolphin when I was doing that. And so I would work that for 30 hours and then study for 3 days.
Okay.
And then take the test. At the end, I felt like I was in The Shining, all work and no play.
Okay.
Luckily, my wife was in Czech for most of those weeks.
Yeah.
Was out of the country with my kid. I only had one at the time. And so at that, and when I started being an entrepreneur, I just wanted to do things a little different. My own allows me to, like yourself, we're allowed to delay. We don't take off. We delay work to go and hang out with our kids or do something. They have something at school. We can go do something. Or they have a game and we can go see a game. Anybody in our millennial, we all do now.
Right.
And it just allowed me to be my own, compass in where I went.
Right. Right.
And I've had people over the years, but it's kind of weird. Always worrying about putting food on the table was always bad for me.
Right. As an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But what do you do to get around that or overcome that? Because you're a fixer.
Yeah.
So how do you get over that challenge?
You never do. I always had this joke. The day that you stop worrying about being fired is the day you get fired.
Okay. Yeah.
And so the day you're worried about, I do my best when there's a deadline.
Okay.
I do my best when there's like sink or swim.
Right.
And so
you like pressure.
That's the only way I work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just part of this industry. I think that's just how we work. Like that's how I work, that's how you work. Mm-hmm. And I think when you take that pressure off, we don't even know what to do, So it's just
I'm supposed to be off this week.
Yeah, it's New Year's.
I sat down and it was just like it was New Year's Day and Eve. I was answering people because I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, Happy New Year, by the way. It's January 2nd, if the day we're
I'm supposed to be in, but I truly do enjoy what we do.
Yeah.
We're in an industry that in our head, we created this object that we can drive and say we did.
Yeah.
It's tangible. We do a tangible industry, that's my drive most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's really one of the things that started really the EHANCE is when you're driving around and you see something you did, there's a sense of pride about it. Like, hey, we did that. And you helped draw that out of basically a white sheet of paper and nothing. So that's really cool. And we're a part of that process, which is awesome as well.
Which is a great segue of why architects really get, kind of get weirded out during like value engineering or any kind of design. Because when we're putting design together, you're literally putting your part, like an artist, you're putting yourself out there.
Right.
And now you're being told, we got a value engineer. So he's like, oh God, you're killing my child. Like you're killing my art. Or you get a design board saying, oh, that's ugly. It's like, who are you to tell me it's ugly?
Right.
So that's when we get kind of, you ever see us get really upset at one of those? It's because you're literally telling me that a part of me, because we've worked on that so long and put so much of ourselves into it.
Yeah.
And now you're telling us, when we mess up or when our design's not, it's all to see. I still drive by one or two of the sites. I was like, that looked so much better before they did that.
Yeah.
And you just have to suck it up.
Well, that's an interesting point. I want to take that and go into the next question, which is really, I really like to build up to this idea of the why behind Chris Epps and you and what drives you. I think we're kind of there in terms of
this counterintuitive why I do things.
Yeah, but what is it that drives you when it comes to architecture, when it comes to your career? I mean,
career-wise and all that, I would say I'm an architect, but that's not who I am. Architects is my bread and butter. It means allow me to do everything that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
As an architect, I've always come back to and why I do things is I can't remember off the top of my head. It used to be a great quote that some design firm made. Every part of the building process should be a betterment of the community. And so that's what I really hold to, is like, as an architect, I have, well, one, to train other people, to give back to the community, and use what I've learned. I've learned how to problem solve. That's all of architecture. You give us a problem, set of problems, and we'll find an engine, a way to fix, like do it. And then if you get down to it, it's like, I need 4 bedrooms, I need 2 this, I need it. It's a problem. So that we research that problem. Here's how we think we can do it. And then we're trained to implement that answer. So we can use it.
And it has to look good.
It has to look
It has
good.
to be pretty
and not over architecture it. I did used to tell that. I made that joke this morning about something. It's like, I'm like, the carpenter was trying to make this really elaborate design and said, wait, I'm the architect. I'm supposed to over architect this.
Yeah.
Not you.
Right.
So, but that's what really drives me, is the belief that everything I do, because it goes in this really philosophy about anything that I study a lot. The built environment really has an effect of how we interact with things. Go to McCracken Middle School in Bluffton. It's built in a way that a lot of blind corners, the students there will feel that building, and it changes their behavior.
In a good way or bad?
Cracken's kind of a bad way.
Okay.
But it was, when it was built and it was designed, it's pre-Columbine.
Okay.
And so I don't want to go into the whole history of how we were thinking education would be. It was more of this open feeling. And it's great when then Columbine happened, and then, well, making them into jails.
Okay.
Making them so no one.
Columbine?
Right in the middle.
So, I mean,
it was designed built after. So they had to change some of the design to work with it, but it just didn't.
They created these blind corners to create protection against?
No, it's just because there's these pods.
Okay.
And they're great as pods, but they've had to retrofit these pods. Like, you could tell the architect had a really awesome idea.
Okay.
But they had to change it based on this tragic event.
Right.
But I just use that as an example. Say if I was in retail architecture, where you place everything in order for you to buy those things.
Right.
So architectural effects, and that's why really what we do as architects really as designers, landscape designers, everything has an effect on the community.
Yeah.
Churchill put out, so when they were building back the Parliament, Churchill made this great quote. They said, do you want it like the style of America, or do you want to build back the same? He said, well, let's build back the same. Because in America, it's built platform that someone communicates and we listen. You don't interrupt them. The Parliament, they're an old church, so they cross from each other. So they argue.
Okay.
So that was their style of government.
Interesting.
And
they wanted that.
They wanted that because it wouldn't be the same. Our style of government is somebody speaks and we listen and we communicate other ways.
I mean, that's a really interesting
analogy
or example of how architecture can actually impact something significant. Like in this case, politics. I mean, that's crazy.
I'm getting into something called prescription-based architecture.
Prescriptive or
prescription-based.
Okay.
It's a weird field. Is architecture for neurodivergence.
Okay.
You hear
like feng shui.
It's kind of actually it kind of looks Alzheimer's centers. Have you heard of those?
Yeah.
You build an interior for that. So say if I had ADD,
yeah,
or the other terms. I'm at my desk and I'm always getting kind of distracted.
Right.
Well, I want a printer at my desk.
Okay.
Because that 5 minutes it takes me to go, a couple minutes to go get a printer in another room, I might get distracted on the way.
Right.
And so if I know you being prescribed to put a printer in all your tools in arm length, because if you have to, or cooking in the kitchen, you do the same thing because you might get distracted.
Right.
You're building your built environment for your condition.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, this weird thing about them crossing, it looks like mats because it looks like the ocean.
Interesting.
Say autism. the autism spectrum. You need to have a room that is quiet, based on some people. You need to have a quiet room with you might get overloaded or overwhelmed by noise coming from the outside, or you need closed in.
Right.
And so if you are on a spectrum and have an office where you're always constantly you need an area to go.
Right. We were talking about that beforehand, like how you mentioned that, because I like closed in spaces. I mean, we're in an office now. Actually, this is my office, but it's also my studio. So we've made it into the studio. But we overlook the Beaufort River here, and it's a cool place. But in some ways, I like the old office I was in where I didn't have.
Because you felt more I call it the hugging effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it feels like a hug.
Yeah.
And it goes back to a mother's hug, parents' hug. It feels comfortable.
But now I'm here, and I do like the light, and
it's a lot better than fluorescent lighting.
Yeah, it's better for you probably.
Yeah, and there's a whole thing about, I can go on for hours about fluorescent lighting and the how our 60 hertz electrical system really screws with our eyes, and that's why we don't need fluorescent lighting.
Yeah, well, these are technically LEDs,
and so you can actually work on our LEDs
a little better for you.
I know a lot of people who will get headaches, including myself, if I work under fluorescent lighting.
Yeah, no, I hate a fluorescent light. But let me jump over to another question a bit on technology, because I mean, I think if we didn't talk about technology, I think we would be missing a big point.
Yeah, a part of my whole,
because that's a big part of who you are, right? Revit, 3D printing, technology in general. I think you have a real
so I mentioned that I'm an architect, but that's not who I am. So I do a lot of.
You got to show us the glasses, though.
Oh yeah, the meta glasses. So I built my own 3D printers.
Okay.
I have really great resin. It allows my nerd side to come out.
Okay.
So I do a lot of electrical, microcontrollers. Right now I have Hasbro made these really cool Ghostbusters cosplay stuff. So I thought it was really cool. So I'm taking a fogging pin and converting it to a mini fogger. So the ghost trap will fog.
Huh.
And so that's what I'm doing. My wife hates me sometimes. She works in my office now for her job. She's like, "Are you actually doing work, or are you just playing with microcontrollers all day?" I'm like, "I'm working, I promise."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the glasses. So I got the meta glasses.
Yeah. So I've not seen these in real person, so I got to check this out.
So they just look like regular glasses.
Okay.
And
cool.
so, but I do have the AI in the back of it and cameras. So I noticed a part that something that needed to be improvement was documentation. I needed to document things a little bit better.
Right.
And like right now, it's talking to me.
Okay.
And so.
Yeah. What's it saying?
Oh, it's just telling me how the battery is. But I have also a meta AI in there, so I can ask for it. Like, hey, what am I looking at?
Oh wow.
It will take that in. So for me, definitely with the head trauma I got from the wreck a year ago, I have to document things a little bit better.
Okay.
And I have to ask questions, record things. So with this, I can just instantly take a photo like this of what I'm looking at.
Wow.
So me not having to get in my pocket or fiddle around, I can instantly do this. Or if I need to take a video, I can instantly take a video.
Now, do those turn into sunglasses, or it's just?
These are transitional lenses.
Okay.
So I can put my prescription. I will have one soon. I'm 41. I need glasses finally. And so they're reading glasses too.
Okay.
And so when I'm outside, like this morning when I was documenting, I can just take a photo.
Okay.
It's that thing
like a site visit, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Initial site visit.
Okay.
Just to bid the job. I was able to click real fast.
Okay, so this is an existing building?
Yeah, it's just somebody wanted a garage.
Okay, garage. Okay.
Yeah, it was and so instead of having my phone might have been in the car because I'm using it for CarPlay. I can just instantly click.
Okay.
And what's nice is that it's my point of view of what I'm looking at.
Right.
Like meaning, okay, that's interesting to me, and I'm already looking at it, so I can guarantee that I'm picking it up.
Yeah. Okay.
In a 3-minute video, it's kind of cool. What's going to be really nice is there are ones that will print out what people say.
On your eye.
Yeah,
you can
on
see
the
it.
eye. Yeah. So it translate, or for people who can't understand when people talking.
Yeah.
So they'll print out like that.
So Meta AI, okay. And this is really the early.
Yeah, you can get ones for ChatGPT.
Okay.
And God, AI has just been wonders for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, is that one of the big areas you're using right now from a technology standpoint, or is it?
It allows me to be by myself.
Okay.
Instead of hiring an admin person.
Okay.
Hiring.
What's the biggest thing you've done that's like, wow, that's a game changer for me? Maybe that,
where did it
not
start?
to give too much away, but
How to talk to people.
okay, like emails or
Yeah. So you had a client that you identified as, because I'll get client, because as a fixer, I also get the clients that no one else wants, because there might be neurodivergent themselves. And I can tailor my emails, my communications to the style of their neurodivergence. You can identify them as somebody who has abandonment issues, or something like that. It's like, all right, I think this person kind of has abandonment, because they're really, if I don't answer within a certain amount of time, they think and you start, that's where my training from psychiatry comes, when I took a bunch of classes on that.
right.
And it tailors to that. Also, I can write emails, which is a huge thing for me.
Sure.
I hate writing emails, grammar, and all that stuff. Helps me with that. It also helps me look through information, because I can upload it with my documents, say span tables, bylaws, architectural review, and I can say, hey, look through this stuff and identify. And what I do, like code stuff, I'd say, look up an IRC 2021 stair code. Give me references. So it'll give me all those code references. Then I can go back and make sure reference, because AI, you need to double check everything.
Sure.
But it allows you to go through all that information.
Yeah. I mean, it pulls it together for you.
Pulls it together for you.
Yeah.
And that's where it really strives. You trying to get it to come up with information, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And are you on the free plan, or you got to pay?
I pay for it.
Yeah. I think the paid's a little better.
It's a lot better, because now we can, with ChatGPT, we can actually do project folders.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then you can upload your own documents to that project folder.
Oh, you mean like on your hard drive or
online?
Oh, on there.
And they have a business account now that allows you to not allow them to data mine your stuff. So,
oh, really? Okay. Yeah, they're just constantly improving these things.
Oh, it's great. So one of my big things is I can get it to start coming up with new ideas, or, hey, am I looking at this right? What's really, I have difficulty in reading what the person means. So I say, hey, what do they actually mean here? Or God, there's the letters we have to write when we go submit something.
Yeah.
Write a letter telling you what you're doing. It used to take forever. So I now just tell AI to
yeah, it's amazing. So
hey, write me a letter about this job. Make it look fluffy.
Right. Give it some fluff.
Yeah, give it some fluff. I mean, what do you use it for?
So I do some writing with it. I use it to help me, like I do a lot of LinkedIn posting. So, I mean, I like to do my own posting, but it does help add some color or clean up the grammar, or maybe you just want it to add.
And that's where it's really great, right?
Yeah. Or, maybe there's a message I want to write to somebody, either on my team or otherwise, and I get it to help me maybe refocus the message, I guess.
Yeah, and it's great for that. Or, hey, clean this message up. I've even just cursed it out. I can't believe, I don't want to say client email, or like a contractor, I can't believe you effing did this, blah, blah, blah. No, clean that up.
Yeah, it's like, you may want to consider, it's funny how ChatGPT evaluates things, and
you may want to consider that differently.
Yeah. But
yeah, I get.
Or other, I mean, I've messed around. We talked about perplexity on one of our episodes, and even others. I've been experimenting with others.
I've had I had one, the petting zoo.
Okay.
So when it first came out, this petting zoo project that we had different animals, and we wanted to make new houses for them. And so what we did was, actually, I asked it, all right, what kind of style of house would a llama live in? If it was a person, what kind of style a pig would live in?
Okay.
And so it came up with that style. Then I asked AI the imaging, and it came up with a house style that. And I used that as a driver for my architecture.
Okay.
Because a llama was like really modern, but not true modern, because a llama is kind of all up front. So I asked it, like, if this was a person, how would it design?
Okay.
And so it was a really interesting way of pushing that. I think AI is like Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know, you see in Star Trek, they're not asking AI to come up with everything. They're using AI to take away all that busy work that prevents you from actually doing your job. And really, if you think about it, remember how much of admin is actually involved in each of your projects. It's a huge amount. And then actually doing work is a small amount. And that's how our industries are now. We have all this admin, other stuff than actually doing design or doing the stuff. AI takes away that.
Yeah.
And allows us to, within that budget, come up with better designs.
Yeah. If you're mastering it properly.
If you're mastering it properly.
So.
Well, with any tool.
Any tool. Yeah. Revit. I mean, it can master you. I mean,
you ever heard Revitizing?
Revitizing? What?
So.
I think I got an idea what you're talking about. What do you?
If you don't know how to make custom families.
Okay.
You use everybody's blank. And so buildings started looking very blocky.
Okay.
It's because they didn't know how to push Revit very conceptually.
Okay.
And so buildings all started looking the same because they're using the block families and just curtailing to do.
Interesting.
We had no time to actually design, so we just started using the block families to design.
Out of
Revit.
Box.
That's why you go to like hotels, like in Savannah downtown. All the you have like a little inlay and stuff like that. It's like, oh my god, that's a Revit.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
You just use Revit to design it too.
Yeah.
And it's a joke as Revitizing.
Well, it kind of reminds me, going back to the AI, like the ChatGPT, because you can see that too. You can see the watermark of ChatGPT on writings and things, and I really hate that. Like my son was talking about. There's one word that it's like a definite telltale that you have used ChatGPT.
I hope you do. What was it like at the beginning of every...
delve is the one. Yeah. Let's delve into this. He's like, if you say delve, nobody says delve.
So there was one that was, oh God, at every beginning of every, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
So you can actually do custom commands each one. You can go in there, and I said, never ever say, I hope you're doing well.
It still does. Like, please quit doing that.
I did it to, I analyze my communication style and analyze how I interact with people.
Okay.
And then write a script, a prompt to you plug and play.
Right.
And it wrote me a prompt to put in there.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
And said, all right, I have these tall tale signs. I have these, little parts of me. Erase those in my emails.
Okay.
And know what I'm doing. And then always kind of fix me on that one. And it does.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I do too much deep dives.
No, I think that's really good tips for how to use that. So let's bring this in for a landing. I just want to thank you. I want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about anything else. Obviously, thank you for your time and all the interesting things we learned about today and insights. But I just want to give you an opportunity to share any final thoughts or anything about your business.
Yeah, we do a lot of nonprofit work.
Okay. And
that's just something I feel like we have to. It's really weird. Us problem childs are always doing the most nonprofit work, give it back. As an industry, we should always be giving back, no matter to nonprofit work, or it's the best way to also get your name out there.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the networking through. So I do a lot of. I've been on multiple nonprofit boards, but we live in an area that has the most nonprofits per capita anywhere else in the country.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And so I can tell people it's the most rewarding thing you got to do. You got to do some volunteer work.
Okay.
Either through monetary, or if you don't have the money, just go donate time.
Yeah. Design a building.
Design ADA ramps.
Yeah. Okay.
Is a big one, or just pick a nonprofit. But you got to do something outside of the industry to really, or outside your norm to really kind of get things. But
Is there anyone that you want to pump up today, or?
Locally, all mine are local.
Yeah.
They're not really that long. And there's no like Doctors Without Borders for architecture anymore. There's no Habitat for Humanity is a really good program to do.
Yeah.
Definitely with Jimmy Carter passing away, that should be somebody. Salvation Army, Rotary. I'm involved in so many different.
Yeah.
I'm a Shriner, I'm a Rotarian, I'm a Lion,
Okay.
Lions Club. I do a lot of different ones. That's what breaks up the monotony of everyday work.
Yeah, I mean, you're enhancing the world around
Yeah.
you through that.
And get outside. It's like you have that engineering club that you meet with
Right.
every so often. When you're looking to do networking or anything, go outside of the industry.
Right. Right.
Like
Okay.
I can't tell you last one time I went to an AIA meeting. I'm just talking to people I know.
Yeah.
But by talking as an architect, we know we're one of the only professions that it pays to know a little bit about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so I need to know enough to be able to communicate with you as an engineer, or know terminology that we can communicate efficiently. And you don't get that if you always with the same people.
Yeah.
Like when you invited me to lunch, I learned things I didn't know about.
Right.
And so now I can talk to you about, what was it, concrete additives.
Yeah. Concrete.
And know what the hell you're talking about instead of just faking through it.
Right.
And you say, oh, remember that. And so by doing so, you learn so much about different things.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Yeah, go outside of, architects are boring, I'm sorry. I got a lot of good friends.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of architects, but it's good advice to get outside of your area of help.
Well, fun if you want sandcastles.
I'm sorry?
We have a sandcastle thing every year that we build sandcastle.
For the architecture?
When I was in school, we made the best ones.
Okay. Nice.
So
I
that's the
bet,
joke. Yeah. And we'll fun at parties because we know a little bit about everything. But just don't take yourself so serious. Like, we just got to stop taking ourselves serious and be forgiving.
Yeah.
That's my last thing. Just be forgiving.
Yeah, awesome. So, again, thanks for coming on the show.
Mm-hmm.
How do people find you if they want to find you?
Good. Just go online, InCircle Architecture or Chris Epps, Bluffton. I'll pop up.
Okay, so website or link you're on LinkedIn.
If you're around here, ask somebody to let you know how to get in contact with me.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook, but I don't really follow. I got to get better on social media.
Okay.
I'm on Instagram for Not Your Typical Architect. I somehow picked that one up.
Okay.
But really, just call.
Okay, just give them a call. All right, we'll put all that information on the show notes. So thanks again, Chris, and thanks everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to today's episode of EHANCE, and please leave a like, a subscribe,